Howdy partner! Did you know that the original Counter-Strike CD comes with 8 extra games? Probably not, which is why I'm here to showcase them all to you today, because there are some truly bizarre entries on there. All of these are mainly multiplayer games, but some of them even feature single-player campaigns. I'm gonna be talking about every aspect of all of these games. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, consider subscribing and supporting me on Patreon. It makes videos like these possible. No, literally, the Patreon money paid for this costume. Let us start this video by getting the boring entries out of the way. Team Fortress Classic is the gold source version of the original Quake Team Fortress mod. This is a somewhat famous game that still has quite a few active servers. If you're a fan of TF2, try this one out. It's basically the same thing, just with less graphics, less hats, and less polish. TF2 is pretty goated, so don't expect this game to be anywhere close to that. But it is to be said that a few people still prefer Team Fortress Classic over TF2 to this day. The next game is Firearms. This one doesn't have any servers nor players, so all I have to go off of is YouTube videos. And it does look pretty interesting. It has a World War II theme that features a bunch of classes and a lot of new weapons. And also once more, quite a few new maps. There are also multiple game modes, but unfortunately that is irrelevant, since as I said, this game is dead. If this game still had servers, I can imagine it being a lot of fun. And there was a big community around it back in the day. Unfortunately, going by this Reddit comment, it seems that the original group of developers was hacked and locked out of their servers. The hacker team wanted to make Firearms 2 once Half-Life 2 came out. This never became a thing, and the Firearms development team went on to create Insurgency. So in a sense, Insurgency is the sequel to Firearms, and that game is doing pretty well for itself. There's 4 more games on the CD that are grouped together under UVM, which means and much more, which are really boring, so let's speedrun through them. We've got Half-Life 1 Deathmatch, which is exactly what it says. This one has the largest community out of all the games in this video, but even so, it's still only a few players that are left. The next game is Opposing Force Multiplayer. This is simply the multiplayer part of Half-Life Opposing Force. There's nothing special to be noted here, it's basically the same as Half-Life 1 Deathmatch. It does however feature a custom Capture the Flag game mode. There are still some few servers to play on, but overall, this game is pretty dead. Then there's Deathmatch Classic, which is best described as the love child of Half-Life 1 Deathmatch and Quake, and has thus also lived in the shadow of both those games for the most part. There is no players left. Lastly, we've got Ricochet, which was Valve's weird attempt at a deathmatch shooter game that most agreed to be awful. You can sure have fun with it on a LAN party or something, but outside of that, this is by far the oddest game Valve has ever released, and the least successful one. If there's one thing to love about all these games, it's the artistry. We've got Team Fortress and its great visual style, Opposing Force and Firearms and their great military theme. And next we're gonna talk about the insanely unique and great looking Wild West mod, Wanted. You know, as a simple cowboy myself, looking at all this awesome art the community is creating, I've been looking for ways to get into art myself. But anytime I really wanted to get into art, it was simply too overwhelming or I lost motivation. Until Artward came around. Artward makes learning art easy even for the most unskilled cowboy in town. Consider checking out Artward right now and completing their bite-sized lessons so you can improve your art skills without any pressure. Be that drawing portraits, characters, animals, landscapes, or even things like monsters, comics and anime. You get easy to follow learning paths that make learning feel like a game. Completing lessons gives you XP that allows you to track your level, which does wonders to keep you motivated, which is usually the hardest part. With Artward, that is no problem. Another awesome feature is the Artward feedback tool. Here you can share your works in progress and describe what you're struggling with and get structured feedback from artists in your community. No need to dig through 20-year-old forums for advice. Just personalized advice in the form of visual drawovers and written comments that are neatly organized and easy to revisit. And by giving feedback to others and recognizing their errors, you can help sharpen your own skills. I speak from experience when I say that giving constructive criticism to others really helps you understand what makes art good and helps you improve yourself. Though if growth isn't motivating enough, the top contributors also get their socials featured on the main page. Artward is building a space where putting in effort is actually recognized, so go give it a shot. And soon enough, you'll be drawing awesome artworks that you can proudly share with your friends or online. Currently, Artward is running a huge discount on their yearly plans. Use my link in the description to get a 30% discount on their premium plan. Make sure you check out the link as the deal will not last for long. Seriously consider checking them out, they are a great service for artists. Thank you to Artward for sponsoring this video. Now let's get to the first interesting game, and the reason for this whole outfit. A little game called Wanted. Wanted is mainly a Wild West version of Half-Life 1's Deathmatch mode. It features a mode in which you collect chickens, a 1v1 high noon mode, and 11 regular deathmatch maps. This game even has bot support, so you can experience the multiplayer mode of this game on your own. And I don't have too much to say about the multiplayer mode. It looks fine. And while streaming this game, a lot of people in chat noted how they have a lot of memories with this game. And I can imagine it, there's a ton of new weapons, it's a great setting, there's chickens. What more could you want, really? However, we are not done talking about this game yet. Not for a while. Since this game also happens to feature a campaign mode, which seemingly went on a lot of people's radar. And am I jealous? I'd rather not know either. The campaign starts with a cutscene. It explains the background of the story. We are at the Black Homestead. It's 1876. This place was burned down 20 years ago in a brutal raid by outlaw bandits. Rogan Black, the eldest of 3 siblings, was the only survivor. The body of his younger brother, Raymond, was never found. So obviously he's dead. Very obviously. The player character looks insanely hilarious with a JPEG of Clint Eastwood slapped onto its model. And now for the untrue sentence of all time. The young Rogan, raised by the colonel of the cavalry unit sent to investigate the massacre, grew into a man who held law above all else. We will come to find that this is perhaps the biggest lie ever told. Now a sheriff, it is said that Rogan is about to come face to face with his past. The mod immediately impresses with its great new visuals, be that the textures or custom models or animations, and also pretty solid sound design and voice acting.
Yeehaw! A posse. I'll go round up some of the boys, Sheriff, and we'll meet you on the trail.
Unfortunately, due to this mod's old age, most of the info about what you're supposed to do is lost due to this telegraph glitching and instead showing the TFC class selection menu. What it seems to say though is that you are supposed to take care of the same bandits that killed your family all those years back. And specifically of their leader Ramon, who's stirring up trouble in the area and has a personal grudge against you. Now obviously this couldn't be your brother because he's dead, he got killed, he's definitely gone. The mod up until this point seems fine and fun. You begin your stroll through the pretty well designed desert levels and come across the first enemy type, miners. By which I mean mine workers, not children. I know a lot of you Minecraft YouTubers got excited there for a second, no? Get all Minecraft YouTubers. And here's where my troubles with this game begin. Not that I might be miners as enemies concept-wise, but why exactly are we killing them? Why are we their enemy? Sure, they attacked us first, but why? Now, you could argue that all the miners are simply crazy. But I have another theory, which is that we, the player, are a feared sheriff across the entire desert. And I have evidence supporting this later on. For the next issue and the most glaring issue of the entire game, we have to take a look at the gameplay. I wholeheartedly believe that this game was not playtested even once. At least the single player aspect it is. Because even playing on easy, every enemy does an insane amount of damage and has an insanely large health pool. All the while you receive very little health and do very little damage. At first you only have your knife and your revolver, the latter barely having ammo. And even a miner takes multiple headshots to actually go down. And you may think that this is exclusive to them since, you know, they only have a melee and that's a fair downside to have. But no. This goes for every enemy in the game, including the bandits who aim guns with 100% accuracy. I'm not saying that this mod is downright impossible, but I would say that it only starts to feel balanced once you enable God mode. I'm honestly baffled how this happened. It really seems like nobody played this mod before it got released. The enemies are harder to beat than those of joke mods like Crack Life. What I'm most surprised about is the fact that every single facet of this game, be that the textures, the audio design, the model design, the level design, the voice acting, is great. But then they decide to completely shit themselves with the balancing. Shit themselves to a degree that can possibly have gone unnoticed if even a singular playtest was done. My best guess is that about 5 minutes before they had to ship this game, they thought it was too easy and tripled every single health and damage number of the enemies. I seriously can't explain it otherwise. Also notice that I didn't list the story as a positive aspect there a second ago. While I respect there being an attempt at a story with the whole bandits and everything you have to take care of, the world building of this game is really lacking. On our way to this town of bandits, I kid you not, we kill about 1,000 men. We are the worst sheriff of all time. The first third of this game only consists of miners, random outlaws and hostile animals like scorpions, snakes, bears and panthers. We are likely causing an ecological disaster in this desert with all the animals we kill. At a certain point, given this is 1876's North America, we come across Native American tribes. And just as is the true American way, we decide to slaughter every single one of these innocent people for no reason. This again plays into my theory that the character we play as is a crazed murderer. Now, native tribes would have, rightfully so, been afraid of cowboys showing up at their home, and would have attacked you first anyways, regardless if you had a reputation or not. But it remains the fact that you then still decide to kill them. And there really isn't a pacifist option here. You are simply a crazed genocidal maniac. You meet more miners, you murder them all. You meet more random outlaws, you murder them all. You meet natives, you murder them all. You meet any kind of animal, you murder them all. You arrive in a town in Mexico, you murder them all. You make your way back to a large mine and murder every single miner that's there. At this point, it's absolutely fair to assume that you are this mod's universe's version of Genghis Khan. And taking a look at this through the gameplay lens again, this is a total nightmare. A singular enemy can take dozens of shots before going down. So imagine a house filled with about 30 of them. Ignoring in-universe morality and ethical questions, a shoot-'em-up FPS can be very fun. But that usually requires your enemies to not be super hard to beat. Every single enemy of the dozens of one you fight per level feel like a boss battle. I can imagine this mod's gameplay being fun if it reduced all the enemies' health and damage by about 80%. For the worst section of this entire mod, you have this boat section. You cross a stream on a boat while there are multiple enemies shooting at you with shots that deal 40 damage per hit on easy, with perfect accuracy and no cover to hide behind. How the hell does anyone design this and think, yeah, this is good? This would even be hard if enemy health and damage had been reduced by 80%. This is downright impossible if you don't cheese the enemy AI in some way. To note one positive section, at one point another native tribe actually takes you in and helps you out of trouble, and you get to stay at their place and even watch a ritual. I thought this was pretty nice, and perhaps even good representation of Native Americans, which I obviously can't fully give the pass on because I'm white as fuck. By the end of the mod you arrive back in your town, and honestly at this point I was waiting for this mod to be over. It had dragged for miserable hours that just consisted of somehow trying to kill these tanky enemies. However, your town gets attacked, which would make for a cool ending, but it drags an unbelievable amount where every building you enter has new enemies and every time you leave the buildings there are more enemies. Repeat this about 6 times. This drags for about another half an hour, at which point you unlock the final boss battle against Ramon, who turns out is your dead brother Raymond. How could this have happened? I don't want to shit on the singular twist too much. I actually think it is kinda cute how they tried to implement a story here, and the idea of recurring characters was pretty revolutionary back then. I mean, even Half-Life 1 didn't have that. The idea that he wants to kill you for abandoning him, even though we had no possible way of knowing he's alive, seems a bit short-sighted, though then again that is most villains, so this is fine. Unfortunately, given the fact that every single enemy in this game feels like a boss fight, this supposed final boss fight really doesn't stand out. In fact, I was surprised by how fast I killed him. With this, the mod ends as it shows 2 of your townfolk digging graves. One for your brother and one for Annie. I didn't really understand who she was, but she also died at some point, I don't know. I was hoping for this mod to end on some kind of retrospective about your character, where it's explained that you are really not the good guy in all this. But this simply doesn't happen. Neither is there any clear indication that this is satire meant to showcase just how dumb and brutal American history is, or just history as a whole really. By all means, this mod ends in you being the hero. Which is pretty insane if you ask me. I would say that due to this missing explanation it could be fairly argued that this mod offers a heavy westernistic perspective on history that borders on being racist, but you do just kinda kill every single person and animal in sight, except for the one native tribe that took you in, which was the highlight of this mod alongside the intro. So what I'm saying is, I don't know, I'm not the one to make the final judgment on that. Basically you're simply a psychotic killer. I simply have to believe that this mod is parody of the concept of heroes in the Wild West. Otherwise I don't know what to make of this mod. All in all, this mod is an insanely impressive feat in modding, especially for releasing in the year 2000. It's really good, or at least admirable in every single aspect, except for the gameplay itself, which is unfortunately the most important one. On one hand I love this mod, on the other hand, it is one of the worst things I've ever played, mainly due to how badly balanced it is. There's actually a mod called Wanted Relit that for one relights the entire mod, but also turns it into a survival shooter that rebalances the entire game. If you want to experience this mod, this is likely the way to go. In all honesty, you've got nothing to lose because it can't possibly be worse than regular Wanted. So that leaves us with one game, Half-Life Redemption. These days, the slightly revamped Half-Life 1 mod version called Half-Life Absolute Redemption is more famous. And I may also admit at this point that this CD was simply printed by me. I don't own the original Half-Life Counter-Strike. Printing it myself was cheaper than buying it for $20 on eBay or something. Unfortunately, my Patreon simply doesn't make that much money yet. This mod is once again likely most known for its multiplayer mode, since most people buying the Half-Life Counter-Strike CD weren't that interested in single-player games. And for the multiplayer aspect of Redemption, it's the regular Half-Life 1 deathmatch experience with a few reskinned weapons and a lot of new maps. It's not that interesting overall, to be honest. There are also no servers anymore and thus no players, so let us move right on to the more interesting aspect, the single-player campaign. As with every game on this disc, it released in the year 2000, which is way before Half-Life 2 released. And so, this game serves as a fan sequel to Half-Life 1. You play as Gordon Freeman again, though you cut the entire beard this time for some reason, and you are now an agent of the G-Man completing contracts for him. A positive thing to note here immediately is that the G-Man impression is actually spot on.
Thank you for offering to assist in this difficult situation. It appears you have caused an impending problem throughout the galaxy.
This intro cutscene continues for another 5 minutes to give you exposition that really could have been explained in a minute, if that. Basically, it's explained that there's a new alien race that is planning to attack Xen, and that your previous activities in Half-Life 1 paved the way for them to do this attack. And to stop them, you have to return 3 Xen moths to Xen. They've got a cooler name, I'll let G-Man say it.
Tell Norp.
But I'm just gonna call them Xen moths because that's what they are. We have to go and get back these moths from collectors all over Earth, bring them back to Xen and stop this attack. The rest of the intro has you wandering around this interdimensional government facility with some fun interactions.
Now yours is the one on the left. Right.
You then get teleported to the first location, the Himalayan mountains, which is where the first Xen moth is located. And I must say that specifically this first mission is actually pretty well designed. You fight against the military again for some reason. They are simply reskinned HECU, but the effort of making them look different at all is appreciated. Scaling the mountains, you eventually arrive at a temple, for which you have to shoot the gong for it to open. Pretty cool moment, I must admit. The temple is filled with assassins, likely used because it's the closest thing to ninjas you get in Half-Life. It is to note that we didn't really steal the Zen moth here. We kinda just looked at it and seemingly there was enough, I don't know. After a short stroll through a cave following this, you then get extracted. Or at least you would. You see, there are a lot of versions of this mod, and getting this mod to run at all was pretty hard, even for me who's installed hundreds if not thousands of Half-Life mods in this time. And it seems that in the process I've downloaded a completely broken version of this mod that is just missing entire aspects of the game somehow. For now I just had to skip the level, but there will be more trouble later on. The next mission places you at a carnival, where the next moth can be found rather quickly, but despite that, you still have to venture deeper in order to close a Zen portal at this place. This level is pretty creative. It's exactly the thing you'd replay as a kid 1000 times because it was just so cool and you wanted to interact with every single little thing. You can ride roller coasters, a swarm boat and other things. Combat is of course also part of this, and so are interactions with a lot of security guards who I suspect may be Russian.
Find me later and I'll buy you a shot of vodka.
The voice acting is done pretty professionally though, once again. This level is a maze though, which I think was the intent, but it does lead to frustration inevitably. Took me a solid 45 minutes to get a grasp of this one level. Overall though, the creativity and uniqueness made this section special and fun. The next and final section will take you to a large warehouse complex, where one of the moths is apparently kept somewhere. And if you ask me, this is the moment the mod truly falls apart. While the level design is good in theory because it happens to look good for most of it, it definitely is one of the more boring environments compared to the Himalayan mountains and a carnival. And it also happens to be more confusing than the carnivals somehow. You keep running back and forth across multiple floors in hopes for some door to randomly unlock because that's all this level is. At one point, you are simply supposed to know that this metal door is breakable. It's needed to progress. I was wandering around for about 30 minutes before I looked up my playthrough and saw that you had to break this door. It's so unintuitive. Then there's a roof section that is completely missing a necessary scene to progress where a ventilation shaft gets broken open. This geometry isn't even present in the version I played. I have no idea how this is even possible. There are some more minor glitches as you fight through this ginormous set of levels that on all other fronts is pretty well made. I may note that I didn't see the Zen moth anywhere. I may have just missed it, I don't know, but I didn't see it. Eventually you escape using a car and then you simply awake back in some hideout. The G-Man then sends you on your final quest. You now have to go to Zen to place the Zen moths where they have to be in order to stop the alien invasion. The Zen level sucks. You received a long jump module earlier, but in my case it simply disappeared and never came back, making most of these jumps basically impossible. Your goal is to wait on these slow as hell platforms as they rotate around, then jump on them and ascend on each one of them before jumping to a final island. All this while an endless amount of alien controllers spawns and you have no cover to hide behind. This level is miserable to play. You close some sort of eye, place the Zen moths and the mod ends. As much flack as I gave it, the redemption is actually kinda okay, if it weren't for the game-breaking errors or mistakes left in the game, which by all means may be my fault, I don't know. It's got good voice acting, good level design for most of it, the combat was actually balanced, and you even got a story going on that served as a sequel to the original game, at least when it released back then. The Zen level is truly awful, but 1 or 2 awful levels across a set of 30 maps is a pretty good quota, I must say. So now you know about all the games on the Half-Life Counter-Strike CD. Once more, consider checking out Artward. They're seriously a great service if you want to improve your art skills, I can't recommend them enough. And if you enjoy what I'm doing and you want to help me fund these videos, support me on Patreon, it's the best way, and you get some perks like early access videos and exclusive videos, including my blind playthrough of Half-Life Absolute Redemption. You can see me suffer quite a bit in this video. Missed. Missed again. Also just helps me rely less on the algorithm because it just prefers brain rot slop shorts nowadays. So yeah, any pledge on Patreon helps. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think about all the games I've covered. And otherwise, thank you for watching.